Warning! I'm now about to talk about my first short film, so if you haven't watched it, go watch it now, please, because there's going to be lots of spoilers in this video and I'm going to be talking into great detail about what I did to the short film, so yeah, go watch that first, somewhere over here. Anyway, hi guys! Today I'm actually going to talk about my first short film and the behind the scenes look at what I did for my short film. I haven't got my fisheye lens on today. I thought I would just set up a camera, and it takes so much effort to try and put lenses on and stuff like that, and it's just no, I just want to get this over and done with. As you may know, I actually did this short film for my college project. I did DVD covers, so I decided to do Submarine. To start with, I thought I wanted this little first introduction. I had this sort of little thing before I did my main feature, if you see what I mean. Another reason to this is because the song that I was using was only 2 minutes 35. For our project it had to be 3 minutes or over. So that's another reason why I had to have this first little bit to it. One of the parts to the first introduction is a little bit roughly cut. I know, I've had people say that it's roughly cut. It was as soon as I got home after shooting the last bit, the first introduction. Can't get my words out today. So after filming the first introduction and I went to go edit it together, I didn't realise what I had done. For instance, the stereo just disappears when he goes to sit down. So I kind of had to cut it as short as I could so that it would actually fit, because I did not have time to reshoot because it was coming up very close to my deadline. I decided not to have Jordana in this little segment because I wanted to capture the time where Jordana and Oliver, if you haven't watched the film, Jordana and Oliver split up and there was nothing but grief for Oliver. He was very heartbroken over her. I wanted to capture that little bit where he was heartbroken and he played a tape of Jordana. It would be a good idea just to have that cassette with a tape player and it just said Jordana on it, and so he could be looking at the tape and feeling nothing but grief and misery and heartbreak, and then on the tape would be the music that would be playing the main feature, and while the music's playing he could be reminiscing of what happened when he and Jordana went to the beach and had fun together and just ran about the beach, like just having fun in general like kids do. I wanted to get him closing his eyes so that it's not an obvious, so I didn't get this sort of obvious cut to the first or to the main bit. So I didn't want to have an obvious cut, so it literally just, he closed his eyes and then boom, he's in the main feature already. I wanted to have that sort of, that gap, so that the viewer knows that he's now thinking about that thing, if you see what I mean. It'd be what he sees in his head. The main feature is what he sees in his head. So he's just reminiscing about all the fun he had with Jordana. I want to base my main feature off the little homemade movie that Oliver and Jordana make together. I wanted it to be raw and shaky and homemade, and the colours to be slightly tinted like the movie. In the original it was actually filmed on an old film camera. I did do my research into this and it was filmed on a really old camera, so, and I wouldn't be able to get hold of that and I wouldn't be able to edit together because I'm not an expert with film. So instead I had to film on my camera that I'm using now, which is a Nikon D3100. If you're wondering, I do get questions, but that is what I use, and I use it for everything if I'm filming. I don't use anything else apart from my fisheye lens, which I've been using recently but I'm not using today because I can't be bothered to set it up. I love the little film that Jordana and Oliver make together. It was very grainy, which I loved, and it looked really old and like, oh, you could see all the scratches on it, and oh, it just looked so cool and looked like, oh, I just love this movie so much, oh my god. I wanted to have an element of the rest of the movie in it as well, so I tried to replicate the colours that are throughout the movie, which is sort of, sometimes it's a yellow tint, which is what I used. I used a yellow tint over the top and a couple of other things. In some of the movie it's like kind of a bluish colour, which is kind of nice as well. But I kind of love that yellow tint because it still made it look like an old movie, if you see what I mean, but without having the scratches and stuff. We filmed literally in the windiest conditions. It was so unbelievably windy. The weather wasn't great. It didn't rain, thank God. Thank God it didn't rain, but it was windy as heck. We filmed both on the pier and on the beach, as you probably saw, but most of the footage actually sounded like this. So luckily anyway, I didn't actually have to use any of the original sound. I could just take the sound out and I could just put the music over the top and it looked and sounded fine. As you probably see that it's actually quite windy. I didn't really sort of think about that, but you can see it's quite windy as well, and the weather isn't it wasn't at its best, let's put it that way. The song I chose for the film was called Seeds by Atlas Hands. I will leave it in the description. It's from Bandcamp. You can go get it if you want. I wanted the music to have the same sort of feel as the original song that they used for the little homemade movie that Oliver and Jordana makes together. Which was Hiding Tonight by Alex Turner, which I love that song. Oh my god, it's so good. And in fact I love the soundtrack as well, so if you've got a chance, go listen to the soundtrack because the soundtrack's really good. When filming I wanted to make it look as natural as I could. I wanted to have a few glimpses of them looking at the camera and stuff. It wasn't intentional at the time, but then I thought when editing it together it looked right to me. A few people picked up on it when I showed them it, and I thought maybe it wasn't intentional to get them looking at the camera, but to me it looked right. It wasn't so obvious that they were looking at the camera, like in the camera like this, but it was more of a sort of a glimpse. It wasn't like, it was just sort of, I know the camera is there, if you see what I mean. I didn't actually tell my friends what to do. I just said, go run down the beach, or go do this, go do that, and I will just film from where I am, which now sounds a bit creepy. At the time, it was right, because I just wanted to make it look natural. So obviously, it was very shaky, because not only was it windy, but I was shaking as well, because it was quite cold. So, but it still added to that sort of naturalness and tone to the film. The voice of the actual Oliver Tate from the movie over the top of the end clip. It added to the fact that he was heartbroken. He was overlooking the letter that he gave to Jordana in the first place, and he was thinking about it. The end clip, the end of it was Jordana writing Jordana and Oliver on the beach, and then the wave comes across. I wanted to fade it across so that when he's opening his eyes it looks like he's fading up from that, if you see what I mean, and he's waking up from his heartbreak. While I was there I had to take the photographs obviously as well, because I wanted to get some on-location stuff, and again they were very natural. If you want to go see them, they are on my Facebook page, and I would care for you to go have a look at them. It's all handed in, and it would be amazing of you if you could leave feedback and stuff. That would be really cool of you, thanks. I'm now on to my final major project for my college, which is my last project before summer. So if you don't see anything from me, then I'm probably doing and stressing over my final major project. I'm sorry. I'm hoping this actually gave you a bit of an idea of what my ideas were and how I managed to produce them into a short film. I hope this answers all of your questions, because I have had a few questions over the time that I uploaded it, and some of it was like, what camera did you use? What did you do for this? What did you do for that? Was that intentional? Stuff like that. So yeah, I'm hoping that I've actually managed to answer that for you. And yeah, I shall see you sometime in the future.